Okay, folks, this will be I believe, seventh and last video section for Chapter 14, the bustle period in the gay 90s. And this is just some last things I'd like you to know about this time period in history. And this, in particular, is important for you to know. It's more than just it took place in more than just this time in history. Different customs for specific garments worn to show respect for the dead have been around for centuries. But it's in the Victorian era where the regimen of wearing what was referred to as mourning dress, clothing for the respect for a departed loved one, really comes into play. So I just want to talk to you about this a little bit. There's about it in your chapter. But I want to talk about it because when you look at garments in collections today and in fashion magazines and photographs, a lot of times you're going to see dresses for women in particular that are black in color. And sometimes these garments were worn because the person wearing them was showing respect for a family member or a loved one who had passed away. In the second half of the 19th century, we're going to see the most extreme code of etiquette for the process of mourning, and more so than any other time period in history. And why is this? It's most likely because there is going to be an imitation of the behavior of royal and upper class people, especially Queen Victoria of England. When Queen Victoria's husband died in 1861, she was in such grief for him. She really, even though it was an arranged marriage, she loved him very, very much. And they had a very large family together. She wore black starting with her husband's death in 1861, and she wore mourning dress for the rest of her life when she died, I think, in 1905, something like that. And because she was the queen of the largest empire in the world, people are going to imitate her example. And the influence of popular fashion magazines are also going to play into this. People are going to be able to read published articles about the proper mourning etiquette and attire, and the rules were described in these magazines of what was appropriate for different stages of mourning and what famous people are wearing for their mourning. So it becomes much more of a trend that's spread across the world. And since people are reading about it, knowing about it, and famous people are doing it, people start following these rules. So we're going to talk just briefly now about mourning dress. And this example on this first page is of a woman in mourning dress. Now, the most popular fabric for mourning, especially deep mourning, because there's different stages I'm going to tell you about, was a fabric referred to as crepe. And you may have seen it in your costume technology class when we talked about fabric types. It is a fabric that has little waves in it, and that was considered the fabric of mourning. And this example right now is of a bustle dress that has the majority of it made out of black crepe. Now, we spell crepe like the French food, C-R-E-P-E, but you'll also find it spelled in these period documents as crepe, C-R-A-P-E. So know that that's what we're talking about. And this illustration shows a woman in mourning in a bustle dress that reflects the same silhouette and features as a bustle gown for people who weren't in mourning. It's just all black. And this lady not only has a dress that's all black, she has a hat that's black, she has a veil over it, and black gloves. So it's very likely that this woman is in the deepest stages of mourning. Now, the custom of mourning in the later half of the 1800s depicted several different, what we're going to call stages of mourning. There was something called deepest or first mourning. Here's an illustration of a woman in deep mourning in 1875. Her dress is made entirely of this crepe fabric. Um, Deep mourning required that widows or family members wear all black, totally black, and wear black crepe. It would cover the dresses, the accessories would be made black, even sometimes black undergarments would be worn. And there were different rules for different members of the family, and it's pretty amazing. You can find a lot of research on this. Um, for instance, let me just give you an example. If a woman was in mourning for her husband, she must wear full mourning for a year and a day. The dress must be entirely covered with crepe, and then after that, 9 months more, she has to wear black garments that are trimmed with crepe. A daughter mourning for her father would wear crepe for 1 year, black for 3 months, and then half mourning for 3 months. A sister would wear crepe for 3 months, then black for 3 months. The mother of somebody who died would wear crepe for 6 months, black for 3 months, and then half mourning for 3 months. I mean, it's crazy. There's a whole series of what's important, what's appropriate for different family members to wear, what kind of fabric, how long. But it's pretty amazing. And if you realize that, the life expectancy for children was less back then than it is now. And with the wars and things going on and just natural stuff, it's possible for a woman to be wearing black for much of her adult life. So that's probably why you see so many garments. So we've got deepest or first mourning, where everything from black fans, black handkerchief, they could still do things, but if they were going swimming, say, they would wear a black bathing costume. They would have a parasol that would be black. They would wear black veils, black lace caps at home instead of a white lace cap, evening gowns. They could still go to evening activities, but they had to wear certain types of garments were appropriate. Couldn't show a lot of skin. When if you were in mourning, that was considered wrong. So if it was an evening gown and you were in mourning, it would have a high neck, right? And it would cover the skin and wouldn't have short sleeves. So I mean, that kind of thing. So once you got out of the deepest stage of mourning, this is referred to as second mourning. You could wear garments that weren't made out of crepe. And here's a couple of examples. These are more like silk satin or silk taffeta. The whole idea of when you're in deepest mourning having anything shiny was frowned upon. And let me flip back. If you look at that dress compared to these have some reflectability. They're black, but they've got more pizzazz to them. And shiny was a no-no when you were in deepest mourning. Here's some other ones. And again, we're following the silhouette of the time period, and this bustle dress right here with showing the hats and the purse and everything, this is covered with black lace ruffles. So I mean, it's very fancy, and it's black velvet bodice with satin lapels and all that, but this was considered a mourning garment. The one on the right, and these are from the later the one on the right is the later 1890s. Again, it's a very elegant look, but there is trim and stuff on it. It's just black. And this is another one from the late 1800s. This is probably late bustle period. This is made out of like a silk taffeta. As it was shiny and has shiny jet beads. This was not from the deepest mourning period at all. So we get to something called a second mourning, and the widows could wear black with crepe trim. And this is worn for, if you're a wife, for 21 months, right? And then there's something referred to as ordinary mourning. And some people call it half mourning. I mean, if you research this, there's interesting denotations of what the different things were. Half mourning, crepe could be omitted, and clothes could be trimmed in black, not all black, too. It's sometimes called half mourning or ordinary mourning. And here's some 1873 a fashion illustration for a half mourning dress, right? And it's got, ruffles and stuff on it. It's just all black. Here are a couple examples of existing ones from the 1890s. Now, the one on the right is black, and then it has some fancy sequins and beads on it. And if you look at the one in the center, this is more example of this half mourning idea. You could introduce a few colors. You could wear lavender and black, or gray and black, and there were times when white was considered an appropriate mourning color as well. So every once in a while you'll see those together. Now the amount of black worn and for how long varied, as I said, according to a person's relationship to the deceased. And a wife's dress in mourning has traditionally expressed, her having the most sadness and the most loss to a greater degree than the other mourners, or the mother of a dead child. Men are going to wear black armbands on top of their suit jackets for a certain period of time. And children also wore black mourning dress. The mourning codes of dress, the etiquette of mourning dress, is going to go out with World War I. And the reason for that is World War I was the bloodiest war we've ever had. And there were so many millions of men died during that war that it would have just been too overwhelming for the general population to see thousands and thousands of women in black for years and years and years. It would have just been too much. So the idea of wearing black mourning clothes for these specific periods of time is going to go out when we get into the 19 teens because of World War I. The idea of wearing black at funerals today still exists. It's not followed extremely like it used to be. Most of the 20th century, it was considered respectful to wear dark colors, in particular black, to a funeral. But there haven't been these rules about how long you have to wear it and what kinds of fabric it has to be and stuff like that. That is a particular thing to the late Victorian period, and it's fascinating costume history.